This edition of Dolphins Today is sponsored by Kinzuri, height-boosting shoes to help you out in your dating life. 15% off when you go to kinzuri.com/chat. On today's show, we're looking at the ESPN 53-man roster projection for the Dolphins and 5 surprise cut candidates coming out of said projections. Now, do want to make a quick note here. The NFL has gone back to their one cut day only, so no more 90 to 85, 85 to 80, 80 to the 53-man roster. Miami's roster overall is in pretty good shape. Not that many shocking candidates, I think, to be cut. But training camp, at long last, is here. Rookies have reported. The rest of the team reports on Tuesday. If you are excited, if you are hyped for Dolphins training camp to be here, then show me you are by liking today's video right now. First up, not so much of a surprise because he's great, but because of the investment and the lack of money being saved, Noah Igbinoghene, who I know many of you don't like, and I understand why. The former first-round pick by the Dolphins we can call a spade. He's been a bust. There's no way around it. He has not been good in his time in the NFL, and frankly, he's been a pretty big disappointment for the Dolphins, and I would argue one of GM Chris Grier's bigger and more impactful misses because it led to them having to trade for Jalen, Ramsey, etc. The Dolphins, though, do have a lot of depth at corner, and the ESPN projections had the Dolphins going 8 deep at corner. Jalen Ramsey, Xavien Howard, Kader Kohou, Cam Smythe, those are the 4 roster locks there. Trill Williams, my boy Will Scott's guy. Then special teamers Elijah Campbell, Keion Crossen, and Nick Needham, who may or may not need some time on the PUP list /IR to begin the season, but do make note of that for the Miami Dolphins. That left no room then for Igbinoghene because I don't think a team has ever carried 9 corners, and frankly 8 might end up being a little bit too much when it's all said and done. The numbers don't look that bad for Igbinoghene. 9 games played, under 53% completion rate, but team that doesn't trust him. He didn't grade out very well for them. That's a big-time red flag. Why is it a surprise cut? He might still get another chance because the Dolphins don't save that much money. So if it's close, it's going to go to the guy that doesn't save him a lot of money. Even though they're paying him a decent amount, it's all guaranteed. Now, maybe there's some salary return details involved in that contract, offset language if he signs somewhere else. But as it sits right now, barely over $500,000 is saved if they release Noah Igbinoghene, which is less than what they would be paying the 53rd player on their roster. So prediction time, then 4 more cuts to get to. Will Noah Igbinoghene make the Dolphins roster? Y for yes, N for no. It is the pinned comment on today's show. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let us know. Elijah Higgins, next up. He was a 6th-round pick this year. If you haven't seen the meltdown from Will Scott at the NFL draft when he thought they took a receiver and not that Higgins was going to play tight end, pretty iconic moment, by the way. He played a big slot role at Stanford, and I wrote down he might get a shot at tight end, and that's exactly what the Dolphins are doing with his actual NFL plan. He's going to be a tight end. It's a position change. We'll see if he's a good enough blocker. I'm not sure that's the case, but Miami isn't in great shape at tight end. They're pretty thin. This was the projection from ESPN. Durham, Smythe leading the way of a really not great grouping of tight ends that should raise some red flags. As a receiver, Higgins has upside. 59 catches, 704 yards. That's elite tight end production. Solid to okay wide receiver production for college. That level of competition does not use tight ends the same way the NFL does. If he can impress as a blocker and or contribute on special teams, there is a path for Higgins unquestionably to make this Dolphins roster. Now, today's show is presented by Kinzuri. I know Will struggled from this, but if you've ever wished you were a little bit taller, Will Scott is the short king of chat sports. Maybe you matched on Tinder, but her profile says must be over 6 foot. I know Will ran into that a few times. We have Short Kings covered with today's sponsor, Kinzuri. Kinzuri makes shoes that can add up to 2.8 inches to your height without anyone knowing. Girls get heels, makeup, push-up bras, and men deserve a confidence boost too. Kinzuri shoes are not just height boosting, but also stylish and comfortable. They're not grandpa's ugly Velcro shoes, but fashionable shoes that can get compliments even without the height increase. The height insoles are integrated into the shoes, making it the ultimate height hack. For a limited time, you guys get an extra 15% off your order at kinzuri.com/chat. The site is already 30% off, and with our link, you get an additional 15%. That's 45% off your entire order. So support our show and check them out at conzuri.com/chat. Life is short, but you don't have to be. Maybe update that dating profile to 6 foot because Kinzuri is a game changer when it comes to your dating life. Link, kinzuri.com/chat, is in the comment section and the description of today's show. Sticking on offense here, Geron Christian. And someone's going to get cut on the offensive line. And I think there is a pecking order in terms of the favorites to make the team, and we'll get to that in a little bit here, of those backup offensive linemen. Christian was claimed off of waivers at the end of this past season and then re-signed in the offseason. He is one of several players fighting for that 7th, 8th, 9th, maybe 10th spot along the offensive line. The Dolphins, as we all know, have real concerns about the offensive line, but I will give them credit for throwing different bodies at the grouping, which may or may not be enough. Christian, however, did not make the list in the ESPN projection. Obviously, Teron Armstead, Liam Eichenberg, Connor Williams, Robert Hunt, Austin Jackson, Isaiah Wynn, Dan Feeney, Robert Jones, and the one that stands out to me is Kendall Lamb. We'll go more in depth here in a little bit. Cedric Ogbuehi also did not make the team, which is less of a surprise. Now, 2022, Christian allowed 8 sacks, 9 hits, 33 hurries. This actually is career stats. My bad. His career stats combined, so I kind of averaged out the PFF run grade based on snaps for each year. So about a season's worth of snaps, crossed out over multiple seasons. Under 50 run block grade, not that impressive. Welcome to being the 9th-ish offensive lineman on the team. I do want to look at here the guaranteed money involved for each player. Dan Feeney got guaranteed $3 million. He's going to make this team. Isaiah Wynn, almost $2 million. He's going to make it. But Geron Christian did beat out both Kendall Lamb and Cedric Ogbuehi in guaranteed money. In fact, Christian is guaranteed more than both of those two guys combined. It's not enough to lock him into a roster spot, but it would indicate maybe he's the favorite over those two guys as a backup at tackle. So name a player who you think ends up getting cut. Is it a notable name like Igbinoghene? Try to name a bigger one like, oh yeah, they cut the 5th string running back. Yeah, we all know that. Give me a notable name who you think ends up getting cut. Going to asterisk Jaylen Twyman here and group him with the rest of the defensive linemen, because if we count Emmanuel Ogbah at defensive end as a pass rusher, they had 3 defensive linemen make the roster, which I thought was kind of crazy. He's a 6th-round pick, has not played in a regular season game since he was shot in 2021, has bounced around, was on the practice squad for the most part last year for the Miami Dolphins. His team is thin, really thin along the defensive line. The projection from ESPN did include Emmanuel Ogbah at the position, which is fine. He's kind of a defensive end edge hybrid. But it was Zach Sealer, Raekwon Davis, Christian Wilkins, and that's it. Nobody else. For a team that will use some 3-man front, it's about as thin as you're going to find along the defensive line. And kind of alluded to maybe a roster move coming after cut down time, but still, that's kind of surprising. Twyman, meanwhile, he has decent kind of tweener traits. Like he's a little bit undersized. He was the next great Pitt defensive lineman between Aaron Donald and Elijah Higgins. Was supposed to be Jaylen Twyman. Never quite materialized, and the numbers were kind of a bit deceptive, but he was drafted. Decent athletic ability. Can kind of fit that tweener role. I want to make his note over guys like Brandon Peely, etc. So if we count Emmanuel Ogbah as a pass rusher for our conversation here, that was 3 defensive linemen on the roster projection. That was it. How many end up making the Dolphins this year? Is it just 3? Is it 4? Maybe 5? Go vote in the comments. Our goal right now is 43,000 subscribers. We're still over 500 away right as training camp gets going. Makes me sad. Hit that sub button for more free Dolphins videos each and every single day. One last surprise cut candidate, Justin Bethel. Now, he was a core special teamer last year. Money-wise, this makes some sense. Only $75,000 of his contract is guaranteed. That's, paying an extra quarter for your soda or whatever it is. It's not much for an NFL team. That's a bad analogy. Anyway, the Dolphins have a lot of depth at the corner, as we've discussed, but in both the regular season and the preseason, postseason, combined, Justin Bethel led the team in special team snaps over Duke Riley, over Andrew Van Ginkel, over Elijah Campbell, who made the team in this projection, and over Clayton Feldrum, who's not back anymore. If you move on from Bethel and Feldrum's on the team, that's 700-plus special team snaps. That is a massive figure. So it does give Bethel a chance still of making the roster in 2023.